I think anybody who knows anything about Africa, especially if you know about like Sudan and the RSF, or like if you know about the Western Sahara and the fact that the Moroccan monarchy is taking over that, and Africa is a really messed up place. The
Right.
bright spot is, of course,
Thanks to European imperialism mostly.
yeah, I mean almost exclusively. The bright
Well, I mean,
spot seems
there's
to be,
also there have been some compounding of the problems of European imperialism by people like by nations like the United States,
oh right,
getting
right,
involved in uh, different conflicts, but also like China supporting South Africa,
yeah, that's true.
supporting South Africa against the Angolan communists during the Mao's reactionary period, is what I like to refer to it as.
Yeah, I guess maybe what I should have said, and what I will readjust, and I will say foreign intervention or imperialism. That is the problem with Africa. The bright spot, of course, I believe, I'm prepared to just say this, is the political efforts of Ibrahim Traore and hangers on and people like him in Burkina Faso, especially, but in the Alliance of Sahel states, um, which are like governments, which are military juntas, which are established by military coups. So, like, there's all kinds of reasons why that's complex enough to get into. Um, but for now, I think I'll just say that I think the reason why this is newsworthy right now is because Burkina Faso just banned all political parties. I mean, so the junta has been in power for like 4 years now, but
Right.
they just banned political parties and foreign NGOs,
Nice.
which is bringing up all kinds of people are up in arms about it. It's like this is not what democracy looks like, and Ibrahim Traore says this is not what Western liberal democracy looks like. That's different. And when you think about how his government is also like nationalized, like the gold industry and a whole bunch of industries, and has raked in already like 70 billion as opposed to the 5 billion that they were get by the private companies who previously owned the access to the resources, shows me that we could learn something from these people. In fact, I think we always could have, which is why they did kill Thomas Sankara,
Right.
in the previous generation, and why they killed Patrice Lumumba in Congo,
Yeah.
and so on. So there's lots and lots to look at, lots and lots to dig into. But I think that the main thing is that in a world of absolute, of fraying unipolar dominance, there's at least a reason to raise an eyebrow. And I think we should just learn more about Burkina Faso. I think that's it for now,
Okay.
though.
Cool. Cool. Well, speaking of U.S. imperialism, let's move on over to Iran. So, as everyone knows, there's a massive military force being built up in the Arabian Sea, but there's a lot of conflicting reports as to what's actually happening. Now, the mainstream media seems to think that there will be an attack this weekend, which it is possible there might be. But I also have seen several reports in both the mainstream media, but far less frequently, and then in neutral sources that say that Iran, this operation couldn't possibly go as easy for the United States as the 12-day war did, and that if the United States wants to strike Iran, what is going to happen is a sort of region-wide conflagration that is going to last a lot longer than 12 days.
Right.
So I'll go through some points that this Twitter sort of independent kind of geopolitics poster that I follow that is actually generally pretty good, named Armchair Warlord, a tweet thread that he posted where he made a bunch of really good points. I just copied and pasted them directly into my notes, and I'm going to talk about them right now. And this sums up stuff that I hear in a lot of places that tend to be more critical of U.S. imperialism, be they like European. Like I think that they're like there have been articles coming out in UK newspapers and in French and in German newspapers that have been critical of the idea that the United States has any right or should attack Iran. And then, of course, Arab sources have the same sort of analysis. They think that there's no way to do this quickly, and what's going to happen is the global economy is going to tank. But anyway, so I'll get into these points real quick. So, according to many analysts right now, most of the accumulation of forces in the region appears to be more of to strengthen the United States' negotiating position rather than a serious military operation. So, as it stands right now, the air power in the Middle East is inferior in strength to the Israeli army, which quickly ran out of steam during the 12-day war.
Right.
And needed
it's part
the
of why
United
it was only a
States.
12-day war.
Right. So there have been the departure of a huge number of tankers from the Middle East without concomitant massive fighter deployments, which indicates that the Air Force intends to base its strike aircraft out of range of Iranian short-range missiles. So moving them to the other side of the Middle East or even further afield like Cyprus, Diego Garcia, or whatever. And we have just found out recently that the UK says that they will not allow the United States to use any of their bases to bomb Iran. So that dramatically,
yeah. Huh.
That dramatically curtails the number of sorties that the U.S. Air Force will be able to fly. Like if they would have kept their forces in the Gulf, they could fly more sorties. But as it stands, from further away, they can't send in the just fighter aircraft with air-to-ground missiles to strike targets constantly. They have to use longer-range aircraft. So bases in like Qatar and other places in the Gulf have been established for the purpose of this confrontation. And those are useless now, given Iran's short-range missile power. So if Trump doesn't want massive U.S. casualties, he has to move all of the United States' aircraft out of harm's way, which is apparently what they've done. Now, U.S. Navy forces in the region have a realistic sort of, realistically have about 300 to 400 Tomahawk missiles, which we've found out in the past few years are pretty out of date. They're pretty good. They're good for striking people that don't have air defense capabilities. But even when we used them against Syria recently, the U.S. Navy fired 80 in a single strike against Syrian supposed WMD targets, and almost all of them were shot down. So the way that Tomahawk missiles work is if they're going to hit a bunker, they send multiple Tomahawks at one bunker, right? And if what they're doing is if they're trying to kill, do decapitation strikes that kill off the leadership of Iran, they're going to have to hit bunkers. So these Tomahawks will have to, multiple Tomahawks, hit in several spots because they don't do bunker busting. Tomahawks aren't bunker busters. They're made for soft targets. So if you wanted to use them for bunker busting, well, first of all, it's not a good idea. But if you did, you would have to send multiple Tomahawks at each target, which means there's a lot less of a chance of any of them actually hitting their targets because they're slow and easy to shoot down. Like the old S-300 system, I'm not sure what the Syrians had, but they're using older Russian air defense systems, and they were able to shoot down the Tomahawks. The newer Russian air defense systems, which supposedly have been in Iran since the 12-day war and probably have Russian technicians, those should be able to shoot down Tomahawks no problem, and actually might cause other missiles and aircraft problems too, if whoever is manning those air defense systems is trained to use them properly. Iranian offensive and defensive capabilities are pretty formidable, as we saw during the 12-day war whenever they pounded Israel into submission, literally pounded Israel into submission.
And everyone's saying now that they're dramatically more prepared, and that's not just because of their own efforts, but also because the dramatic ramped up increase of assistance by their allies, by Russia and China.
Not to get to that, they have been overtly bolstered by the Chinese recently. So any attacks on Iranian soil will need to be conducted from a limited pool, and the Israelis who are expected to join the strike certainly have not replenished their own stockpiles, right? So that will severely limit what can be done. It's probably less than what could be done by the Israelis specifically last time. And by the United States, I mean the force that the United States used to attack the Houthis was barely able to do anything with like a month worth of attacks before they just declared victory and went home without accomplishing anything. The Chinese and Russians are now feeding intelligence to Iran, which will probably allow them to hold off any U.S. bomber strikes. Last time, the Iranians were blind because of a probably at least months long program by the Mossad, plot by the Mossad to shut down their air defenses right before the Israeli strikes.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that the Mossad was in Iran blowing up power stations, radars, air defense stations with drones and other types of sabotage, and jamming their communications and stuff like that. But now the Russians and the Chinese have been providing the Iranians since the 12-Day War with newer technology that won't as easily be disrupted. Plus, they're providing them with intelligence, probably satellite intel, other kinds of, probably lots of other human intelligence as well. So the Iranians can be expected to have a pretty good picture of what the U.S. and Israelis are going to do tactically. Now, in the aftermath of the 12-Day War and the insurrection, which was led by the Mossad in the United States last month, the Mossad is unlikely to be able to pull off something the way it did in the 12-Day War. If the Iranians are to be believed, and if the neutral press is to be believed, the Iranians rolled up the Mossad networks in Iran after the uprising and had them all shot. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it does seem likely that that's what happened.
I mean, it seems much more likely than what we are meant to presume, which is that they just found everybody who disagreed with the government and killed them for disagreeing.
Right.
It's not that we know, but we definitely know that what the things which we're supposed to know is those things are not true.
So Iran also still has significant proxy capabilities in the Middle East. The Iraq and Yemen proxies are pretty much untouched, and as well as Hezbollah in Lebanon, which sat out the 12-Day War. But like, if there is a regional conflict that is as existential for Iran, then you can expect those proxies to make themselves known. And there are lots of vulnerable American and Israeli targets that these proxies could go after.
Also, like Khamenei has said something like that they have the capacity now to just sink the carriers, and I don't know if that's true.
That is possibly true. They have hypersonic missiles, and I'm sure that they have anti-ship missiles which can track and destroy ships. I think it's probably possible. We'll see. There have been no U.S. ground troops deployed, and that means that there's no route to actual regime change in Iran. There's no possible way for the United States to swoop in and snatch or just kill Khamenei and have somebody like Delcy Rodriguez step in and take over. You know,
I mean,
they don't have anybody waiting in the wings.
This is one way in which the Trump administration is different, in very different approach to not so much nation building, like George Bush and all of his cronies. They wanted to build a different Iraq. It didn't work. They would be okay with just destroying Iran. That's it. Like Syria.
Right. That's what they want.
Yeah.